Hello, welcome back to The Digressor. I'm here with, well, first off, I'm here with Emery. You all know Emery, but I have,
Hi.
there's Emery. We all know and love Emery. But now we also have a third person here, a mutual friend, Michaela.
A.
Say something?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah. What's up? I'm Michaela.
And Michaela is actually the reason we're doing this episode.
I'm special.
Yeah, very special. Tell us why we're here.
Oh, that's a big question. Well, I think, Trevor, you asked me to come on the podcast because you knew I was going into music therapy and you wanted to know a bit more about what that was and kind of maybe what my future career looks like.
Yeah, when we were hanging out last week, I heard how passionate you were, and I love hearing people talk about things they're passionate about. And I'm like, wait, I have an idea. And I didn't think you would be for it. You probably noticed I was nervous when I was asking you to be on here, and you're like, yes, I would love to. I'm like,
Yes, I would absolutely love to because I love, like, first of all, I love talking with y'all. Second, I love advocating about music therapy and just like spreading the word because I just think it's like the most awesome thing ever. So,
yeah, it sounds awesome,
mhm.
especially like the way you were talking about it.
Yeah. So, where would you like me to start? Kind of maybe what do you want me to explain first, or what are you wondering first?
Yes.
So basically just a basic overview maybe to start with?
Basic overview? Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, usually I'm the one asking the questions as the therapist, so I'm like, what do I do now? I answer them. Yeah. Yeah, so music therapy is essentially the use of music to accomplish both musical and non-musical goals in order to promote a person's general well-being and sort of meet any health needs they may have. So this could be mental, emotional, spiritual, physical, pretty much any like domain of human functioning that we think of. Um, Music therapy can look like a lot of different things depending on who you work with. So, for example, I might use music therapy in an assisted living home with folks who have dementia to help them reminisce on their life, and maybe later in hospice care to provide some comfort to them and their family. I might use it to help somebody to walk again. Let's say they had a stroke and now they have difficulty walking. By using like rhythm, I can help them to retrain their gait. We can work with people with disabilities on things such as emotional regulation, um, academic constructs like counting, colors. I've worked with children with various disabilities on some of those pre-academic constructs. And we can also work in psychiatric settings such as hospitals, private practice, community health centers, or prisons in order to help with the psychological and emotional needs of those clients. So it's a pretty broad field. But to sum it up in one sentence, we use music in order to meet someone's needs and goals.
Music is a very powerful.
Yes, it really, really is. It's one of those things where it's like we definitely have research to prove it, but it's still one of those very innate human things where it's like we know it's important. Do we 100% know why it changes our emotional state or why it does these things? Not completely sure, but it does work. Um, I think probably one of the coolest things that I've seen in music therapy is that music is actually stored in every part of our brains. So it's the last thing we forget. So when I've worked with people with Alzheimer's and various other forms of dementia, they can still recall the words to their favorite song if I start singing it with them when they might not be able to remember their own name. Um, we like we use different part of our brains to sing as we do to talk. So people that might have difficulty talking, such as after a stroke or for various other reasons like speech delays, might be able to sing. And just because of the way it affects our brain chemistry. And then clearly there is the emotional effect it has on us. Like music reminds us of certain events in our lives. It has the opportunity to kind of meet you where you are. Like, I know if I'm sad, I like to listen to sad music and just kind of sit in that for a moment, which can be healthy. And it could also bring you to a different emotion, like listening to a song that's maybe more upbeat to pump you up before a big exam. That's something that like I've done a lot through college. So music is very powerful in very many ways, for sure.
Keep expecting Emery to jump. You're good at music too, Emery.
Why do I have to jump in? It's your podcast. Yeah, but like what Michaela is mentioning about like the dementia, the Alzheimer's, like when people are like struggling with those kind of like things where they like their memory is just not there, they still remember the music, and that's just it just kind of shows how powerful that is. And like, I like there's sometimes like even for myself, I'll like be like, yeah, I know this song. I don't know why I know this song, but I know it. And like, and it'll just evoke different emotions. And so that's related to like the time when I learned the song sometimes. And like, I have no connection as to why, because I don't really remember those times, but I still remember the music and how I felt. So it's kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, for sure. Music is such a powerful medium in that it incorporates all of those thoughts, feelings, and everything into one. I will say a lot of music therapists are really passionate about like saying that obviously we don't own music. Music is there for anybody to use, but in order to be a music therapist, there are specific things you have to do. Because as in any healthcare or therapeutic profession, we always have to remember the potential for harm, right? If I don't know if you've ever had this personal experience, but like let's say you are like not in a great mood and you listen to a song that might trigger something unpleasant, right? Like since music is so powerful, it can really help, but it can also really hurt. So that's kind of why it's necessary to have a professional there. And not to say that, oh, every time you listen to music, you need a therapist there with you. But the point is that when we're using music in order to accomplish specific goals or meet certain needs, that we want a professional there who is able to help the client process through their feelings in that way, because it can be really hard to listen to certain songs. I remember one client in particular who I remember playing a song for, and this client immediately got very emotional and started crying because it reminded her of her fiance who had died and she wasn't able to be with him at his funeral. And that just really like affirmed for me, like, wow, this is why it's so important that we have someone and a professional that kind of knows what is how music affects us and how we can help clients process through that, or else it could potentially cause harm.
I actually have a song that I haven't heard it in like 15 plus years. I can't. Every time the song starts, I have to turn it off. It's,
Yeah.
Wonderful by Everclear. It's what I was going through when the song came out, and like when I was listening to it, what was going on, and it's like I cannot listen to that song.
Yeah, definitely. I think when a lot of people hear of my profession, their first reaction is like, oh my goodness, like music, that's amazing. I love music. I see how it helps. And that's great and like absolutely true. But there's also times when it can't hurt us, which is why we need like a professional there. And also there's a lot of stuff that can come up when we're making music actively. A lot of what we do in music therapy can be based around improvisation, which is just kind of making up music on the spot. And the certain things you play, though it might seem a little strange, they do like mean something, like if I play really hard on a drum, then maybe I'm feeling anxious or angry because of the way that I'm playing. If I'm playing a steady beat, then I'm probably feeling grounded. And music really communicates that stuff, not only to the therapist, but to the client, to other people in the group, if it's a client group, and so on and so forth.
And kind of going back to what
You
Emery
can't
was
really play
saying.
music without.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you can't really play music without having like emotion in it. Like it just like you can always tell when someone's just like playing it just to play it, as opposed to like playing it with emotion. Like it sounds so different.
Right,
Like the same piece
Yeah.
will sound so different.
right. That's so true. It's so tied to our emotions and kind of what we hold inside. Like, it's really interesting and awesome, but also can be a little hard how music can move us. Like, pretty sure, like, I know I've had the experience where I've listened to a piece of music that I never heard before and after, like, felt tearful. Not necessarily like a sad way, just like it moved me. And that's kind of what baseline music can do.
Yeah, well, I was about to say a minute ago, kind of going back to what Emery was saying about like music having a feeling and like takes you back to a thing. I don't know if Emery or me have ever told you that I wrote a novel at one point. I have a playlist. I have two separate playlists that go along with it. The first one is where I list every song that's listed in the story because music's a big part of it. But then the second playlist is the feel of the story. Like you can tell, I tell the whole story through the songs I pick.
Yeah.
And like basically like not necessarily like when the lyrics of the words, but in the feeling of the music itself.
Right. It's really everything that the music does. Common like experience that I lead with clients is song discussion. And I usually am encouraging clients to discuss not only the lyrics, but the music itself and like how that works together, maybe what instruments are played. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it high? Is it low? And how does that affect like your perception of it and kind of how it affects you emotionally? But that's really awesome that you put a playlist together in order to mimic your writing. That's really cool.
It's like I actually don't even pay attention to lyrics half the time. My main focus is usually the music, and like I listen to all kinds of music. But sometimes I'll be playing music and like a J-pop song will come on, and someone will be like, "You can't even understand what they're saying," and I'm like, "So."
Right. There's still like a feeling behind it. I think really one of the really cool things about music is that I will like disagree with the saying that it's a universal language because I don't believe it's universal language because we all experience it differently. And clearly, like if I listen to J-pop, I don't speak Japanese. I don't know what is going on. I'm gonna have to call up Emery to help me understand it, but I'm still experiencing it. Music is what I like to call a universal phenomenon. It's something that every culture, every country, every group has done in some way, and it sounds vastly different between cultures, vastly different, but it's all music. And I think that's what's just so interesting about it, like this art form that we shouldn't really have any like biological tie to, like it's not like it makes us like live. It's not like one of the basics for human life, but it is part of human life and every facet of its being. Like the first thing kids do usually when they're kids is sing, like before they speak. And I think it's really cool in that way.
Yeah, like I watch American Idol and I see so many contestants that will be like, I've been singing since I was 2, and I'm like, yeah, right. And then I'll show a clip of them as like 2 going, ah, 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 ah. Oh, they are singing.
Yeah, it's really cool how usually like vocalizing or singing, humming a melody comes before speech, which is something really interesting when we look at people that might have speech delays or they want to work on speech goals. The fact that, singing is like pre-verbal. I just think it's really cool.
Nora, my niece. I love her so much. Like her favorite thing is like singing too, and she's like one of my favorite recordings of her is when she's like trying to sing "Let It Go," and you just hear like "Let go, let go," and like really like And then like the best part is like her mom tries to sing with her. She's like, "No, mine."
That is so cute.
It
Your niece is so adorable. I love her so much.
is precious. I used to watch this little girl back in Texas named Audrey. She was 4 at the time. She wasn't very good at speaking, but she would sing sometimes. But my favorite memory of that is it was around the time "Call Me Baby" came out. She loved that song. She would sing it, but she didn't know the words, so she would say "Call Me Baby."
What I really love lately is watching kids try to sing the TikTok songs. It's really funny. They're like savage love, bada 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 bada. Like they don't know though. It's just really funny. But
It's endearing and it's
it's
adorable.
very adorable. Okay, so if you want, I can talk about kind of the different methods of music therapy since we've been talking about kind of like how music is used.
And
Oh,
what you can basically lead this
okay.
episode.
I'm like, whose lead do I follow? Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I was gonna come up with questions to ask you, but it's like I don't even know where to begin. I'll just let you talk.
No worries. As you probably noticed, I'm quite talkative. I can talk to a tree. I can talk to a wall. I can talk about anything for quite a long time.
Part of it though is like this is something you're super passionate about, so of course you're
Mhm.
gonna have a lot to say about it, and it really shows too. Like in
Yeah,
just in
that's
your
why I wanted to ask. That's why I asked you to do this because I could tell like it's something you're passionate about. You love talking about it. And I asked about like some of my coworkers, some of my friends about like they'd never heard of music therapy and
Mhm.
nobody had heard of it. And so it's like this way to get it out there so people know about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like an up and coming thing, field. Though I mean music has been used in healing like throughout history, right? We know that. Through multiple different like healing rituals all over the world. It probably like the history of music therapy around the end of World War II was when it started to almost be considered a profession because some musicians began performing to veterans or soldiers that had returned from the war and were having shell shock, known at the time, which is PTSD. And they noticed how like it affected them and like thought like, hey, you know what, maybe this could be a thing. And
Let's look into this.
yeah, you know what, let's go into this a little bit more. So there are essentially two groups of like music therapy organizations that sprouted up. The first I can't remember specifically all the dates off the top of my head, but I know like the 60s and the 70s are kind of when university programs started to sprout up. And by the 90s, we had consolidated into one association for music therapy, which is the AMTA, the American Music Therapy Association. And kind of what it means in the process to be a music therapist has changed a little over time. But what it is right now is we complete 4 years of school. And in that schooling, we have basic music classes like music theory, oral skills, which is like ear training, music history, those like musical foundations, like I had to learn to play guitar, freshen up on my piano skills. We also have to choose a primary instrument. So my primary instrument was voice, so I learned to sing classically. And then we also have music therapy specific classes like treatment processes, learning how to write a treatment plan and documentation and all of those things. We learn about the history of music therapy, research in music therapy, various theories of music therapy. We have courses in anatomy and psychology. I took about 4 psychology classes in child development, abnormal psychology, developmental, to kind of understand those different stages of life. And finally, which was my favorite part, we have practicum, which is our clinical work. So we have to have 1,200 hours in order to be certified as a music therapist, and those begin in school, and we get about 200 in school. So my university program had 5 semesters of practicum. I think most have around 3 to 4, but it really depends on the school. You're only required to have 3, but we were a little extra at my school, but that's okay because I loved it. And that was really like the first time you get like hand-on-hand experience with clients. Like I got to work in a nursing home, in a special education classroom, in a substance abuse recovery center, in hospice, and in another classroom with a group of children with various disabilities. And so after you complete those 4 years of school, you have to go to a music therapy internship, which is 6 months long, or 9 months, whatever gets you to those 1,200 hours. So that's kind of the stage I'm getting to. I'll be beginning my internship in October. And essentially, like the internship is kind of guiding you towards being a music therapist. Like you spend maybe a month or 2 observing, and then you start leading sessions, and then you start doing it all on your own. And once you're done, With your internship, you take an exam, a board exam by the CBMT, the Certification Board by Music Therapists. Once you pass that exam, you become a MTBC, Music Therapist Board Certified. So hopefully by next May, I'll have those 4 letters next to my name once my internship and exam are completed. So that's kind of the process, because I think a lot of people think like, oh, music therapy, oh, so you just like go in there, like play your guitar. And it's like, well, I actually did have to like go to school for this. But this is the process in which you do
A little more complicated than that.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I would love if I love my college experience, don't make me wrong, but it was hard. It's a hard major. And I was like, if I could have just like not done that, it would have made life easier. But it really is important that we have all that training, because like I said earlier, there's just so many things that come up in music therapy. Like I would not be equipped to go into my internship where I'll be working with terminally ill patients and patients in certain psychological distress if I hadn't had that experience already in my undergrad. And I certainly wouldn't be able to do that in my professional life if I didn't have that experience in undergrad and in internship. So that's why it's so, so important, because, we have to provide the best to our clients that we can, and that comes through experience.
And like you said, it can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Yeah, it goes back to the whole not wanting to do any damage.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same kind of like oath that doctors take, like to not cause any undue damage to patients.
Right.
And so just like I know it's kind of like some people might be like, why are you comparing, that to that? But it's like the brain is like the most major part of the body besides the heart, like those two, like you kind of need both of those to function.
Yeah.
Mental
And
health is just as important as physical health.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and
Yeah.
people don't realize that. And like it can be kind of damaging because, if you're not taking care of the mental health, you can't really like it impacts the physical health too.
Right.
Like, both of you
Yeah.
know this.
Yeah, we do.
Oh yeah, we do. It's good to have some lived experience as a therapist. So like I've been through it, but that's so true. Like I really prescribe to the idea of health as being totally connected. Like that mind-body connection, I think our emotional, our spiritual, our physical health, all of those things are connected because they all make up who we are. And we can't just treat one part and not treat another part. And this really applies to any healthcare profession in general, but specifically with music therapy, I think of it as like if let's say I'm working with a baby in the NICU and like they were premature and I'm trying to like get their heart rate to settle down. I'm gonna play some like soft music, I don't want to like overstimulate them, but I'm not just
Metallica.
Exactly, no Metallica. But I'm not just thinking about lowering their respiration rate. I'm also thinking like, are they starting to like make facial movements? If the parent is holding them, are they making contact with the parent? Do they look like they're more soothed? Because those physical and mental connections are always together. And I think it's really important for therapists to always see that, because it's never just one thing you're working on. As I'm sure you both know in life, there's never like just one thing you're working on to improve.
Right.
It's always multiple things, and they're usually connected. And the nice thing about music is that it just kind of affects all of those things at one time, I think, which is what makes it so powerful and just like a really powerful therapeutic medium. Really just, I think in general, creative arts therapies are like that. Like there are also art therapists, there are dance movement therapists, they are drama therapists, and like music therapists, they're using that like creative medium in order to create a change. And I think it's just really cool to like see these different perspectives of health. Because personally, as a therapist, I believe that health isn't like sick and not sick. It's like a huge like continuum, like my optimal functioning might not be your optimal functioning, and that's okay. We all have like different ranges of what health might be. And I think in my vision for my future with music therapy, I just want to help clients to reach what they really think is their well-being. I'm very like what we like to call client-centered and humanistic, which is a theory that I believe all people are good, and that they're all capable of changing, and that like that they are more than like a diagnosis. They're more than something horrible they did. They are a full person, and they deserve dignity and respect. And I provide the care that with dignity and respect.
That's actually really good. I know I haven't discussed this with you before, but I've actually been to several therapists in the past, and I'm absolutely against going to see them because I've had so many bad experiences, and Emery could probably tell you some of them. And part of it was because of that. They just saw me as, here's a list of what you are, and that's how I'm going to treat you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And most of them weren't even fitting for you either. Like,
No,
if I
they
recall
weren't.
correctly, it was just like they were just like kind of thrown on you, and it was like they weren't even accurate.
No, like I wasn't even properly like evaluated. They're just like asking me a few questions, and they're like, "Okay, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. You say you write novels?" I said, "Yeah." "Do you see the things in your head as you write them?" "Yeah." "Delusional." Da, 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 da. And so, like, I have been officially diagnosed with depression, bipolar. I mean, wow, no, depression, anxiety, and PTSD. I'm not bipolar. That was on the list. They said I was bipolar and schizophrenic and delusional. And I was like, from like 5 questions, you got all of that?
Yeah, I think our diagnosis system is really flawed. The DSM, the Diagnostic Statistical Manual for Diagnosing Mental Disorders, in my humble opinion, is a little effed up. Like, it doesn't really like encompass, first of all, it doesn't encompass like various experiences of people with various diagnoses, but also like people are, I mean, a diagnosis in some ways can be affirming, but at the same time, like, yeah, you're not delusional because you can write novels. Like, it's more
Yeah,
than that. Like, and I think sometimes professionals fail to see like the certain social contexts that people are in and how that influences their mental health. Like, I was recently talking to another music therapist about an experience she had where she works at a psychiatric hospital, and they had a Black man come in diagnosed with schizophrenia because he was scared the police were going to kill him. And that's why they diagnosed him with schizophrenia. I know you're all making faces at me. Like, that seems like in this day and age a perfectly valid fear, especially considering the history. But they diagnosed him with this mental illness because he was exhibiting something that I think is a perfectly rational fear. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's just. I have so many issues with that. Like,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sadly really common. Like, that's happened a lot. Kind
that's
of how in like the when, you know, insane asylums were a thing, it was mostly like women that were put in them for like
mhm.
not obeying her husband.
hysteria.
Yeah, exactly. Hysteria. And now it's kind of become like schizophrenia has become the like Black man's disease because people have been saying, oh, you're delusional, but like you're not really delusional. You're just living in a
I'm on the
society that,
news.
yeah, you're living in a society that is not moved past racism. And that's why I think like I always try to see my clients in their sociocultural context because all those things are important, like in terms of their mental health and physical health.
Yeah, that's really good that you point that out. I think that some people, especially like, not no offense, but like a lot of white therapists,
I, I
um,
no worse.
you know, like they
Mm-hmm.
kind of take it as like because the schooling and so that, especially in the United States, like the schooling, it doesn't consider or put into like consideration the fact of how everyone's background, especially like culturally,
Mm-hmm.
can change, you know, so many different things. Like something that might be seen as really codependent in American culture is not codependent in like Asian culture, for example. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like people are like, oh yeah, you know, you're being so codependent because you still live with your parents or something, you know, something ridiculous like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, no,
No.
like families live together and it's not like, it's just all dependent on like what is the cultural background behind it,
Mhm.
and it's just, I don't know, it's just really weird for me because
Yeah.
that's like one of the biggest ones too, like being told that I'm codependent. I'm like, I mean, in certain ways, yes, I can see that, but other ways, that's not really accurate because that's just cultural.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
you and it's funny that you and another one of my best friends still live at home because people give him a lot of crap about it. He's 33 and he still lives with his parents, and he gets crap about it all the time. But the way I told him, there's a difference between living with your parents and living off your parents. He has a job and pays the bills, and so it's fine. It's not like he's like living in their basement, living off them. It's different, totally different.
Right, right. And I think we kind of sometimes have this like construct that in order to be successful, you have to be independent. But like it's important to have a community. It's important to have your family. And those aren't necessarily harmful things. Like if someone is content living with their family for their whole life and that's not only a cultural based thing but just something they need, like that's completely fine. I think there's like a big push for that a lot of able-bodied people put on disabled people to be independent when that doesn't necessarily have to be a goal, and independence doesn't necessarily mean oh you live alone. Like that might not be possible for everyone or they just may not want to, and like that's okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's so common, like, but really? Sorry. Sorry. Okay. Well, I think I was saying like it's it's super common to like experience that kind of thing where it's like there's just such expectation from like, yeah, as you said, like able-bodied people. They're like,
Mhm.
well, I can do this, so why can't you? Or like, even if they put into consideration the fact that someone's disabled, they're just like, oh, well, if I had that situation or I was in that same situation, then I still handled this just fine. It's like, are you sure? Are you really sure about that?
You
Right.
never know how you're going to react in a situation until you're in the situation.
Yeah, for sure. And I
And
think,
even
yeah.
then, you react to a situation, it's going to be different from everyone.
Hmm.
Just because like I react a certain way doesn't mean that if Michaela or you, Trevor, like, if either of you are in that same situation, that you'd react the same way. Like there's no, it doesn't work that way because of like partly because cultural upbringing, partly because of like current like existence of situations of like anything like different things. There's so many different factors that's going to change it, and also just yeah, I yeah.
And then something that I just that made me think of is I'm actually going to use a Shrek reference. Uh, have either of you seen the Christmas special?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so you probably know what I'm going to say. So we all see Santa Claus as, he's jolly. He's like the greatest person ever. We all love Santa Claus. But Gingy, the gingerbread man, he's terrified of him. In Gingy's culture, Santa Claus is like the boogeyman because Santa Claus eats the gingerbread man. And so that's a perfect example of like different cultures see the same thing completely different.
Yeah. That is such a good way to phrase it, Trevor. I'm going to use that in the future. So the way I'll cite you. But I feel like, by the way, that was for my friend Trevor. But that is exactly it. That is exactly it. And I think as a mental health professional, it's also really important to think of my own positionality and my own privilege and what I may or may not be able to understand. Like, I'm white, I'm cisgendered, I'm able bodied. Those are all things that work for me, right? There are certain things I'll never understand. And that's okay. It's not that, we can never truly understand another person's experience anyway. We all live life differently. But I really think those are things that always have to be kept in our minds, just as people in general, but especially as therapists, because I need to realize that perhaps somebody doesn't feel comfortable with me because of what I look like, or perhaps somebody thinks I might have a certain opinion that I don't because of the identity I hold. And it's really important to think of those things because they impact our clients.
I just sorry, I yawned. I just had this like remembering this story actually like similarly related but not. But it's just like the fact of like how like privilege does come into a huge part of who can get help, who can't get help, and the kind of help that they get. And like one of my friends recently was telling me an example of like for them they're like, yeah, during it was like around last year, like when like they were having the protests for George Floyd, like that stuff. And like my friend was like, you noticed like she was with someone else, right? And the two of them were like I know both of them, but like I'm not gonna say names at all because that's not fair. But like so they walked like they saw something was happening things like that in like the downtown area or like near the beach or whatever because they were in like SoCal. I'm just gonna say SoCal, right? And as they're down there, they're like, "Oh, what's going on?" It's like stop and check it out, and they find out it's a protest. And so they are like, you know what? Like, hey, can like one says to the other, like, can I check this out? And like, if you're uncomfortable with it after we just go see for a little bit, we can leave. I just want to see, like, experience what that kind of thing. And then as that's happening, like they decide they're like, oh yeah, there's like a ton of police here, and then my friend was like saying how she was like, you noticed that when we walked by, like she was like, I noticed when I walked by those police, I did not fear for my life, and that right there is privilege. And I was like thinking about it because I'm like, have I ever been able to really walk past police without being anxious? Like I like even though like I'm very much white passing, I still have had like anxiety around that for some reason. I don't know why, other than like my father is very dark skinned, so he, like basically like he has been like profiled for that. You know, I think that kind of came off to me that like because of the fact that he's like that, that like they might treat me the same way or like or worse. So it's just it's kind of like mind blowing to me that like there are situations like that where people are like, "What do you mean like that? Like it's not scary?" And then I'm just like, I don't know why it is, but it is.
Yeah, there's a town like 30 miles from here, I think, Bethel, Ohio. You remember that
Yeah.
being in? Yes. Okay, so during the protest, there was an issue that happened there where there were peaceful protesters. I knew somebody that was there. There were peaceful protesters there. They were just standing there holding the signs, and then the local residents came out with shotguns and started made a scene. And then that made the news. And they're like, look how violent these protesters are. They caused a scene. And something that stuck out to me was there was this elderly. I don't know elderly. She was an older white lady. She goes, I've lived in Bethel my whole life, and I've never had a problem with the police. And there's a reason for that, lady.
Right. Like, of course you haven't. I haven't. It's because I'm white. Like, and I think it can be hard for all of us to not assume that our experiences are universal because it's like, I've experienced this is what I know to be true. So, like I said, I try to see everyone in the best light as possible and remember that's probably where they're operating from. But I think like mental health professionals really need to like think about that because it's so important, and so many patients have been dismissed because of, oh, like, no, like, why are you scared to go to the psych hospital because there's a policeman with you? Like, well, because that's scary to certain people. Like that's gonna be terrifying, and historically there hasn't been great things that have happened with mentally ill people and police. So it's completely understandable that people would feel that way. And to go back to what you're saying earlier, Emery, about how certain people are blocked from having care, that's something that I really want to fix in music therapy, because since music therapy is a national certification, which is great because that means I can practice in every state, but that isn't great because it means that I can't like bill insurance in states and stuff like that. And like that, the whole healthcare system with insurance is just
You have
like
to
a whole
provide
mess.
some.
But I won't go into that right now, but essentially what that means is that like only like the really privileged people can pay for it end up with it, or people only with a specific diagnosis that the Medicaid waiver gives them, or you have to be in a nursing home or a hospital or something like that. Like it's not accessible. And in general, mental health care and just healthcare in general is not because of the system that we have. But that's something that is at least my personal goal, because everyone should get care. But, you know, it is a hard thing to solve because like I need to eat too. So like, you know, and that's why talking about music therapy is so important, because the more people that know of it, the more people that recognize the value of it, the more it will exist, the more I will get paid, the more clients I can serve. So, you know, it's systemic effect.
Because capitalism.
Because capitalism. I wish it wasn't this way, but you know, sometimes we got to stick it to the man and just go with it, go with the system. But anyway, so
you have a case of stick it to the manitis?
Sorry?
You have a case of stick it to the manitis?
Yeah, I guess I do. I got some money to pay off to a college tripper.
Some money to pay off?
Just some?
Just some. Doesn't like it has a lot of zeros on it, but
there might have been a typo.
There might have been a typo. Yeah, but anyway, I feel we've drifted really far from music therapy, but in anyway, like that was a lot of things. I talked about a lot of things, but I'll kind of get to one more thing about music therapy, so everyone can kind of understand what it might look like. So I kind of explained how it's shown in different settings, but there are 4 main methods of music therapy that we use. They're improvisation, which I mentioned before, which is like making up music on the spot. Composition, so writing a song. This could look like different things. Like you could write a song from scratch. Maybe you just write the lyrics. Maybe you take an existing song and you change the lyrics, or you change the rhythm, or you change the instrumentals of the song.
Rearrange it.
Yeah, rearrange it. Exactly. There's also Recreative Method, which is kind of like doing a cover of a song, you know, like recreating music that already exists, whether instrumentally or vocally, a combination of the two. And then finally, the Receptive Method, which is all about listening to music. So this can kind of look like maybe leading someone through relaxation, like progressive muscle relaxation, to some instrumental music, or discussing a song, like listening to a song and discussing it. And yeah, those are kind of the basic music experiences that we use in a session, and they're all usually end up being mixed in multiple different things, because session plans never work out how you do them, how you plan them, and that's totally okay. But those are the main things main ways we use music, if that makes any sense in terms of like what it might look like.
Yeah, earlier you said that you had to choose your instrument, you chose your voice. And I noticed last week when we were in the car and we were singing along to Imagine Dragons, I had to stop singing just to listen to you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Michaela is an amazing singer.
Oh. Very amazing singer.
Shucks,
actually,
guys.
Hey, Michaela, what if I ended this by like maybe you don't want to sing now, but like maybe have like a recording I could tack onto the end of this.
Yeah, I could do that. I could send you a recording or something. I
don't know. Put you on the spot, like sing something.
And I'm like, what do you want me to sing?
Eva Marie.
Yeah, just text me later. Let me know what you want. I'll record something and send it to you when it's not like 10 p.m. and I've been talking all day.
I was like, what? I looked at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds a little different to Emery.
Yeah, I was like, Emery, it's like light outside.
It is still light outside, as you can tell, because I don't have the light. Oh, well, the light is on, but
it's dark here, as you can see.
Yeah, it's very dark here on the East Coast. So, yeah.
Okay. So, figured we'd talk about random stuff. No, I didn't mention in my last episode. My last episode was the Aliens Area 51 episode, and that happened. I recorded that after everything happened last week, and I still didn't bring it up. I figured, because I knew I was gonna have this episode with Michaela, and I figured I'd bring it up then. And then you came, so I was like, hey, this works out even better. I mentioned the fact that Emery randomly surprised me. I knew Michaela and I were going to hang out, and then all of a sudden, Emery shows up out of nowhere, which was the greatest surprise ever.
My favorite part of that was the fact that like you tried to introduce me to your friends and they were like, okay, and
Yeah.
you're like
Yeah. Okay. So as I think I've addressed in the 2 episodes that Emery and I did together, at least especially the My Best Friend episode. Well, first off, Emery's my best friend in the entire world ever, most important person. So extremely special to me. And I've been talking about them for years. And so if these people finally meet them, I'm like, it's Emery, and they're like, okay. And they're like, it's from San Francisco. I know. Emery's here. Like, yeah, I see that.
they also had no idea how big a deal it was for me to even be there in the first place though. Like I was absolutely terrified to go over there in the first place. Like absolutely terrified.
Because of Ohio.
Well, not just Ohio, but like because it's well predominantly white.
Oh,
And especially with my mask, I'm not as white passing, you know? So like there was a lot more anxiety because I'm like, oh no, like what if something happens? So I was like, I need to make sure I'm not alone at any given point because you can't.
yeah. Like we were always gonna be with you.
Yeah, of course. I told Emery that. I was like,
Em-
your fears are totally valid, but
Yes,
I will fight anyone for Emery. Well, I'd fight for
Emery-
anybody, but especially for Emery.
Emery, we won't let anything happen to you.
For sure. And it all worked out. I'm just even surprised I was able to keep that a secret because there are so many
Oh, I
times
know.
was
There
gonna-
was one point I'm pretty sure you came so close because I was telling Emery
No,
about
there was
this.
more than one point.
Huh?
There was more than one point.
Oh, one point that I thought I actually noticed it. I was talking about when you come, we should totally video call Emery, and you just sent a line of laughing emojis, and I'm like, why is that funny?
I was just like, haha, yeah. Thumbs up.
And so yeah, then Emery, whenever you surprise me at work, I messaged Michaela like a string of exclamation marks and like, you know how hard it was to keep that a secret.
I knew
Yeah.
exactly what those exclamation marks meant.
Okay, but like I'm the one who screwed up and like kind of gave it away, but it was only because I was like, if I don't respond to any messages when I get there or like on that day, then I knew Trevor would be like suspicious and kind of like anxious, you know? But if I said that I was going to a wedding, then around the same time, Trevor would be suspicious, but at least there wouldn't be anxiety.
Yeah, that was but what's funny is I suspected something because of the cover. If you had just not responded, I would have been like, oh, Emery's busy. And probably not really thought much of it. But then, like you said, oh, I'm going on a wedding that same day I'll be on a plane. As soon as you said it, I'm like, same weekend. That's a little suspicious. And that's why, like, I was in the office at work, and Mike and Emery, like, I heard Mike calling my name because he was supposed to come give me a ride. And I heard Mike calling my name, and I went out there, and Emery standing next to him. And it took me a second, and I literally went, I knew it!
I was very disappointed because it was not as exciting.
Yeah, if you hadn't mentioned the wedding, if you hadn't said anything about that, just been like, I'll be busy today. I wouldn't have thought anything. I would have been completely surprised.
I know, I failed.
It's okay.
Fail.
I mean, Emery and I were also talking about like we don't know who said what, so How are we to know if it was a secret or not?
Yeah, and like we were gonna wait till Monday to surprise you too.
Yeah, whenever we met up at Frisch's.
Yeah, that's the day we were gonna surprise you.
I'm glad you did then, because then, yeah, that's that extra time together. And now I have memories of you at work. Now, like, work's not as depressing now, because like I was like, Emery's been here. This isn't bad.
You should like,
It was pretty sad.
yeah, that's UDF. Like I told you, UDF is an experience. I think you should get a cardboard
Not
cutout of Emery and like
not
set
a
it up.
good experience.
No, please don't.
What'd you say?
I said you should get a cardboard cutout of Emery and just like set it up in the store so you can look at it every now and then.
Yeah.
That would be super creepy. Please don't.
Well, so on my drive back a few days ago back to Maryland from Ohio, I stopped at a gas station that had a cardboard cutout of Trump next to an ATM. So
Did you punch it?
and you're definitely better, so I think it's okay to put
Yeah.
you in a UDF.
Emery is definitely better. Oh, well, everyone's better than Trump, but
I'm like, that's not a very high bar.
Yeah, the bar
Yeah.
is like down here.
Like, you have to dig to get to that bar.
It's like 6 feet under, you know.
Yeah.
All right, is there
No,
anything else?
I'm pretty sure it's 8 feet under. I
8 feet?
got 6 feet, but just kind of had to.
Yeah,
jump
I
it down
really
a little
jump on
more.
it. Just get it in there. Alright, are there any other questions I can answer for you? Any more about music therapy or anything really? I don't know.
Yeah, like I was saying, like, I was gonna come up with questions, but I tried to I looked into it a little bit because I wanted to learn about it from you, but I didn't know, so I didn't want to look too much into it because then I'd be like, I know this. So like,
Yeah.
I didn't even know where to begin with the question. So I was just like, that's why I was like, let's let you tell everything. I was gonna let us do the whole bantering thing first and then get into it, but then I was like, I kind of jumped right into it, like, so Michaela, tell us why you're here.
I know, I was like, oh, now I feel like I'm in therapy. I'm like, I don't know why I'm here. That's a big existential question. I don't know. But
Why are you here? No, on the podcast. Oh.
and I was like having a moment. I was like, why am I here?
It's honestly such a mood.
Yeah. But a pretty basic resource that anybody can check out, I'll spell it out for our viewers / listeners, is musictherapy.org. And that is the website of the American Music Therapy Association. And it has like all the information, like basic information about music therapy, like what it is, what it looks like, jobs, how you become one, all that paperwork about like ethics and stuff like that. That's really important, but a lot to read. Don't worry, I've read it, but like, yeah.
I gotta skim through it.
I'm ethical, I promise.
It's like the terms and conditions and.
No one's read that.
Right.
Okay, but if you read some of them, they're hilarious.
They are.
I hear that they put jokes in there just to prove no one reads them.
Mm-hmm. They do sometimes.
I know,
depending
like,
on the organization.
But I don't want to read through them to find them.
Exactly. Like, there could be a clause in there saying, like, you will sell your soul. And I'd be like, because I don't read them. I'm just like,
Yes, I belong to Google now.
The list of my sins are, like, lied about terms and conditions like 300 times in her life.
You don't want South Park, do you?
I did when I was a kid, but I don't remember it.
There was an episode, I think it was Kyle. I haven't watched it in forever. There was an episode, I think it was Kyle. He didn't read the terms and conditions for Apple, and then the joke in the show is that everybody reads it, and he's the one person that doesn't, and so they put him in like a human centipede because that's in there.
Oh my gosh!
Kind of for a little bit, it started to scare me into reading them. I was like skim through them for a little bit until I realized it was a bunch of legalese.
I know, I'm like, I don't even know what these words mean. Like, what's the point? But anyway, musictherapy.org. And then you can always, like, contact me. You can email me at Michaela, Michaela, Miller, Miller, 2021 at gmail.com. So I sing all the time, clearly. So I don't know why I made
I
that.
noticed that about you.
Dude,
It was awesome. It was nice hearing you sing. And
oh, thanks. That was just my car voice, but
no,
Yeah.
because you were singing when we were out of context and we were petting the goats and cows. You were singing too.
I don't even remember that. Like, I sing so much. I cannot.
You were like
remember.
singing to them, like when you were talking to them.
Oh, I was. I remember this. I was like, here, take your food, please. Like,
Yeah.
just making something up.
And even though you were just playing around, it still sounded nice. So imagine how you sound when you really like you're like at a performance.
Man, I found out after that trip that I'm allergic to goats. After I got home, I had hives everywhere. And I was
They were
like,
licking you all over your hands and
I didn't
arms.
know I was allergic to goats.
Yeah,
Man.
it was a whole thing.
Yeah,
Mm.
Emery and I were driving home from Milford, and like they were like, "Oh my gosh, your arms!" I was like, "I know, this is so bad."
Oh, that sucks. I didn't know that.
I mean, that was okay. I mean, I still
It was
would
still
have pet the goats if I knew that, because goats.
Only difference is you would have taken a Benadryl.
Yeah, maybe.
True.
I live my life on the edge.
I like to live dangerously.
Yeah, I like to live
Pet and
dangerously.
goat.
You know, I take enough drugs. I don't need any more. All legal ones, I promise, for the sake of this. All legal, 100%.
I was gonna say, like, you might want to put something in there, like it's like just a joke.
All prescribed to me by a doctor.
How many are you at now? No, you like don't answer that out loud, please.
No, don't.
Why don't we start with you first, if we're gonna go down that road?
I know, right? Hey, I'm down from what I was before. So, you know, progress.
Oh,
Progress.
Emery and I were talking about the other day. They're actually Emery is like a magician or a miracle worker or something. Okay, so I used to have really high blood pressure. Like I needed to take
Oh, yeah.
two or three times a day because it would be like both numbers would be in the hundreds. And in 2019, when I took my trip to San Francisco so we spent a week together, I ran out of the pills I had, and I was like, "Oh no!" We were both like, "Oh no!" And then, like, I think Emery was more freaked out than I was. I was like, "Oh crap!" And Emery was like, "You need to get that fixed." So when I got back, I told the doctor like, "Hey, I ran out of this." So like, they took my blood pressure, and it was fine. And he was like, we're gonna keep an eye on that. It's been 2 years, and I haven't needed it since. Emery cured my high blood pressure.
They're a miracle worker. What can we say?
Right?
I'm just kind of here.
We're all here. That's to answer the existential question. Put on my therapist voice. We are here, and that is enough. That reminds me of a song. Okay, no, I'm not gonna start singing that. I'll send you a thing. Okay, is there anything else you want to know?
Oh, well, one thing I was going to say at the end of the episode was, do you have anywhere to send people? But you already gave the website and your email address, so you answered that. You already answered my one question.
I can just read mine. Emily's in. Why do I say Emily? Emery. I know
Emily?
your name. I swear to God. Emery. Because I have a friend named Emily, and I just ADHD brain, you know. So Emery is a miracle worker, and I can read your mind. So clearly, JK, I can't read minds. I wish.
Yeah, so speaking of getting names wrong, you notice how like I kept not saying your name when we were. Yeah, because for some reason I kept wanting to call you Melissa.
It's okay.
I was like, so yeah, we were petting the goats.
You can just say, hey, you.
I mean, to be fair, like in my phone, neither of you are by your names.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say what Michaela's is because, you know, I don't want to like just in case. But you are a wild Marf.
Oh yeah, Wild Marf appears.
Yep.
I don't want to tell you what you are in my phone. Your legal name.
Don't
You know-
steer me like that.
I sent you screenshots. You know what your name is on my phone.
I wasn't sure if you changed it or something.
That look Emery just gave you is like
Yes.
the look they give when they're about to hit you with chopsticks. Like that was the same look.
No, Michaela, we call that angry Asian mom look.
Glares an angry Asian mom.
Yes, I can feel, like, sometimes we'll just be messaging and I'll say something stupid and I'll be like, I can feel that stare from across the country, and Emery will be like, good.
Really though, it can be felt from across the country. It's been many times. Many times. I can even just hear it on the phone. Like I may be like, yeah, we're not gonna do that. I'm like, oh no, they're staring at me.
I love how you guys like know me so well at this point. That it's the whole
Yes.
thing. Like even if you can't see me, you still feel it.
Yes.
Oh yeah. I even like think of it like randomly. If I'm like, oh, I forgot to eat lunch today, I'm like, Emery somehow knows and is somehow glaring at me.
Yes.
Like-
Yes. Okay. Okay. So there was a thing the other day. Like I remember how there was an issue at the dairy place because I said I'm allergic to peanuts. Well, I wasn't always allergic to peanuts. Emery probably knows what I'm going to say. Okay. So 2007, I randomly broke out in hives. They said, you're allergic to peanuts. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I know by now. Because growing up, I ate so much peanut butter, I think I had more peanut butter in me than blood. And then I broke out in hives, and suddenly I'm allergic to peanuts. The doctor then said, every 7 years, your allergies change. And okay. 7 years later, 2014, I took a chance and I ate some peanuts, and my throat and tongue just went all tingly, like no hives. But then if I eat too much, I like fall asleep and it like really uncomfortable. It's been 7 years. So about a week ago, maybe not a week ago. When was it, Emery?
I
2
don't
days ago.
remember.
Yeah, it was like 2 or 3 days ago. I was making cones at work, and one of the cones has peanuts on it. And so, dip it into the chocolate, and I was pouring the peanuts on it, and it was falling into the bowl. And afterwards, I sent a picture to Emery and Mike, and I'm like, I'm going to test to see if I'm still allergic. And Emery was like, you will not. But by then, I'd already eaten it, and nothing had happened. Like an hour later, like nothing had happened. And so I was like, maybe I'm not allergic anymore. So we have this new special edition Reese cup. It's called Ultimate Peanut Butter Lovers. Nothing but peanut butter. It's just peanut butter Reese cup. And I sent a picture to the group chat with Mike and Emery, and I'm like, I'm going to buy one, but only if Emery approves. Emery did not approve. So I didn't buy it. And then my coworker was like, just buy it. They're not going to know. I'm like, and I just laughed. He just gave me a weird look. And it's like, you will
You
know.
can't hide it from me.
Okay. So Michaela, like 10 years ago, I did try to lie to Emery once, but I couldn't. Literally, like an hour later, I went back and I'm like, I'm sorry, here's the truth. And I can't lie to her. I can't lie to Emery. I can't keep anything from you. I like even things that like it doesn't even matter. Like I'll tell you like random things or whatever. So like I'll randomly send you like a picture of my receipt. Like look at what I bought. Like all the food I bought. Like why do you need to know that? I don't know.
Because apparently I need to know everything.
Yes, and okay, so you always kind of make fun of me for being cheesy. And I think you're muted right now. Oh, okay. So there was something that later Daniel was asking me, why did you don't have to tell Emery everything. Just go ahead and buy the peanut butter cup if you want it. And I said something that made him roll his eyes so hard I could hear it. I said, no, because I respect Emery even when she's not looking. And he's just like, yeah, that's when he rolled his eyes.
Yeah, it's true though. You can't lie to Emery because they'll find out somehow. It's like that TikTok
Yep.
sound, like they're gonna know. They're gonna know. That's exactly what it is. Like
Yes.
they're gonna know. Like
Like
Emery just went,
there'll be times where like sometimes like I do something stupid or I'm having a really depressed night and all of a sudden, what's wrong? How did you do that? Just randomly message me, what's wrong?
Yep. I did that to someone else who like I haven't even spoken with very long at this point. But like, they're like, "How did you do that?" I'm like, "It was obvious."
yeah, I don't know how Emery does it, especially because, as you've probably noticed, Trevor, I'm pretty bad at maintaining contact with people because when
Yeah.
I am busy with things, I'm like hyper focused on that one thing. So I just forget to talk to people. I care about so many people. I just like my brain is like it's like an arcade up in here, you know, it's like that pinball game, and it's just like the balls are constantly bouncing around and I just can't keep track of that. But Emery will, like, whenever they randomly text me or call me, it's like always like when I would need to talk to them. I'm like, how
That happens all the
do
time.
you know this? So literally, if like just message me first, like Emery knows this, like I just forget. So, and if I
Yeah,
don't respond the first time, do it multiple times and then I'll
see
eventually get it.
Emery introduced us like 2 years ago, over 2 years ago, like maybe 2.5 years
Oh
ago.
yeah.
I know. And like what I was telling Emery, I was looking through, like I forgot about this till like I was actually looking at old messages, like trying to find something else recently, and I saw where I told Emery, like, I don't think you and I are gonna stay friends because it feels like I'm just forcing a friendship that's not meant to be or whatever. But then now looking back, I see you were busy, and then now this is like that's why I sent that message to you. I'm like apologizing for being a bad friend, and I was like, can it just be like a let's start over moment? And like we've been staying in contact for like the last month now, so it's like
Yeah.
all
I
it needed
told you
was.
too. I literally told you that's not
I
the issue.
know,
Was not
but
you or
you
Michaela. It's
know
just Michaela was doing too much to like be able to focus on anything else.
you know how
Emery's
my
always right.
anxiety is. You know how my anxiety is.
Yeah.
Like,
When I
okay,
yeah.
so like, so Michaela, there like Emery and I have discussed this many times.
Mhm.
If there's one thing I should know as an absolute, undeniable, unmovable fact is that Emery is my best friend and loves me and everything, but my anxiety keeps telling me otherwise, and they keep having to reaffirm me that my anxiety is lying, and I'm like, I know I could tell the difference. There's reality. I see the reality. Then my anxiety's over here saying, oh well, no, this is the reality, and I'm like, away from me, Satan. So like I can see both sides, but like sometimes the anxiety is louder than the reality.
Yeah.
That's when you need to go. Hey, anxiety. Are you calling my best friend a liar?
You know
Yeah,
what?
yeah.
You know what I do? I pretend the anxious voice in my head is like Donald Trump. So whenever I think something really bad, I'm like, "Shut up, you moldy carrot!" And then suddenly I feel fine with my life. Just try that.
Yeah, what I usually do is like I think of it as like a 12-year-old troll on the internet. You know, like it's like shut up, you're like 12.
Yeah. Wow. I had a 12-year-old tell me that I was a worthless human being because I didn't know how to play Crash Bandicoot. So that's the anxiety voice.
Kids are mean, man. They're
Yeah.
mean. But
Michaela, later I'll tell you why I stopped playing games online.
okay.
I don't want to say it on the podcast. Now I'm going to have to at some point, but for now.
It's okay. It'll be like a subscribe for more. Like kind of thing.
Follow me on Patreon.
Follow me on Patreon.
I have a Patreon, but How long have we been recording? I think it's time we wrap up.
Yeah, it's
I
been a while.
I know it's gone on a lot longer than I intended. I was hoping at least 45 minutes. But like, it's so fun talking with you. It's just
I warned you, I can talk to a wall, and you picked like
I
the
know,
thing
and
I'm
that's
the
why
most passionate about. So info dump.
one thing I told Emery after we were hanging out is like, even up until the moment we actually met in person last Monday, I'm still kind of like, is it going to work though? And then we actually hung out and I realized we have more in common than I ever thought. And you're like an awesome friend.
Thank you. And like anytime like you want to talk to me and I'm not responding, literally just spam me and I'll eventually answer.
That's what I do. At a certain point, like sometimes I would just literally spend the word spam.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Like,
Yes, I do.
spam, spam, spam.
They
That
used
was
to
me.
call me. They would call me and like leave a voicemail and it would say, "You're a butt." Pick up the
I still
phone.
literally have one of those that you left for me.
Yes.
Oh, Michaela, after we're done here, you need to call my phone and let it go to voicemail.
Okay.
Just
Okay. Will do.
You'll see.
Will do.
All right, well, we should probably get going. You know,
Yeah, for sure.
lovely having this conversation. It was
Yeah,
so
it
much
was super fun.
Yeah.
Thanks
Okay,
for inviting me
bye.
on it. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so for those curious, this is my voice message. If somebody calls me and it goes to voicemail, this is what they hear.
Hello, this is Trevor. Only it's not. This is Emery. If you're trying to reach Trevor, please leave a message after the beep so I may learn all your secrets. Hee.
To conclude today's podcast, I wanted to sing for you a short chant called The Ocean Refuses No River by Lila Flood. The ocean refuses no river, no river. The ocean refuses no river, no river. I am here and you are here, we are here. I am here and you are here, we are here. The ocean refuses no river, no river. The ocean refuses no river, no river. I am here and you are here, we are here. I am here and you are here, we are here. I am here and you are here, we are here. I am here and you are here, we are here. I'm so glad you could all be with us here today, friends. Have a lovely day.